Some people just aren't into
Jealous
something.
ass broke niggas. That's
This
my
guy
pet
right
peeve.
here, he looks like he's ready to get it.
Ready to get it,
Ready to
bro.
get it.
Yeah, here we go.
What you up to?
B.
Got
I
politics
could be ready
on.
to get it. We
Got
could
life.
go into politics. Or am I on a podcast right now?
You
Is it
are?
live?
You look like you're on a
Absolutely.
podcast.
Hear your opinion on a lot of different things, though.
Yeah, I could give you a little bit of an opinion. What do you want to hear?
Let's start with what part of the world are you from?
I am from the U.S. of A.
Okay.
in Wisconsin.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Nice.
All right, Midwest.
Yeah, Midwest. What about you?
You're outside Atlanta.
Oh, okay. Cool, cool.
So, right now we're dealing with all the different problems of the world. I would say one of the biggest ones has got to be violent crime. What possible solutions do you think there might be to the surge in violent crime we're experiencing in America?
Yeah, I think it's important to look at there are reasons that people commit crimes. Because like certain places commit more crime than others. Different groups commit, different crime. And I think the key common factor that we see is income inequality and poverty is what tends to lead to crime. So focusing on a reduction of attacking a lot of those conditions that lead people to crime, and then secondarily focusing on a justice system that's more concerned with rehabilitation than punishment and retribution, because the punishment doesn't really work. They get out and they commit crime again and again and again, is what the numbers show. If we look at other countries, they focus more on rehabilitation, and those same numbers aren't the same.
If you listen currently to conservative media, the argument that they are making right now is that the surge in violent crime is a direct result of a lack of enforcement of any type of penalties against the people that are committing those crimes. So you would completely disagree that the crimes that are being committed right now are a result of the fact there is no fear of any type of punishment.
Yeah, I think the notion that if you enact extreme punishments, people won't commit those crimes is completely incorrect. Because we could look at what people actually do. We could look at a place in Saudi Arabia, right, where they will literally cut people's heads off or cut people's hands off for stealing. Does that mean people aren't stealing? No, that's not true. People are still stealing. So you can't just focus on, oh, we have this punishment. You have to look at, okay, why are these people stealing? Is it because they need something? Is it because they're poor? They want food? They, need income for whatever reason? We look at those conditions and trying to address those directly, whatever they might be, right? And there's various solutions. We could talk about what the solutions
I
are.
would love to hear that. I would love to hear some
Yeah,
solutions.
absolutely. I think a big solution, for example, like when we're talking about theft in particular, right? Obviously, there's income inequality. You don't see people, stealing cars in Beverly, like people that live in Beverly Hills, right? They're not stealing cars. It's people are stealing cars from people in Beverly Hills that live in much, poorer neighborhoods. And it's because they don't have access to those resources. Maybe they need income. They need to steal this car to sell so that they can have income for whatever it might be. A lot of the working class and middle class is living in debt, in America, right? And the only way to combat that is sometimes for these people to commit crimes, and it's, I we have to ask ourselves, why are certain groups committing crime and others aren't? And I don't think it has to do with the punishment, because, like I said, you look at the numbers. 80% of the time, after like the first 10 years of being released from prison, people get rearrested 80% of the time. So that means the punishment thing just isn't working. We got to try something new, right?
So what
Well,
should we try instead?
it that to that extent is hard to get out. Difficult. Look,
Mm-hmm.
every time you look around the corner, you're always thinking, and then to second that, any interaction you have with law enforcement, already a chip on your shoulder. If they know, if as soon as they find out that you got a record for anything,
Mm-hmm.
now the tables are already hedged against you, so it's tough. And for me, I think that it has a lot to do with survival. And
Mm-hmm.
the term survival is not necessarily food, water. I'm hungry. I'm cold. Survival could be I don't want to walk, rather drive. I don't want to wear these shoes, rather wear those. because they want to survive in a different setting. So crime is going to continue to stop until we have people treat each other with more respect on a daily basis. That's got to happen. And there has to be more opportunity for people to live the life they want to live.
Yeah. I believe in more opportunity. So like a thing there have been quite a few economists that have talked about this, but like a federal job guarantee. This is like a solution that could be done pretty much now, which is anybody that's looking for a job, right? And is able to work and right. Uh the federal government will offer them a job at a living wage, right? And I think the reason this is a positive thing is because there's so many people. I mean, there's a number of things we could go about doing for livable wages. In Sweden, they don't even have a minimum wage. They just have a bunch of unionized workers. If we were into unionizing a bunch of workers, I'm into that too, right? But there's a lot of laws that make it tricky to do that. A federal job guarantee is an option so that people are able to support their families. Right now in the United States, uh, people cannot do that on minimum wage. It's literally impossible, no matter where you live on minimum wage, to support a family. Right? You just can't do it.
What's your definition of a livable wage? What would that number be?
I think it would
keep
look.
in mind that you're in Wisconsin. So.
Yeah, it would look different. I live in Milwaukee, so like even in Milwaukee, it would be much higher than like someone who lives up north in the middle of nowhere in Wisconsin, right? Maybe in the middle of nowhere, Wisconsin, you could probably sustain yourself on $15 an hour.
Now let me ask you this: are you limiting that person's potential by putting that cap on them?
What do you mean putting that cap on it?
You say, let's just say, just for argumentative sake, that northern Wisconsin, $15 an hour, Milwaukee, $25 an hour, cost of living.
Mhm.
Why not just say it's $25 an hour? And we're talking about across the board. Because if you go, all right, well, I only make $15 an hour. I live up here. I cannot afford to move to Milwaukee because I need to make $25 an hour. And I'm not guaranteed a $25 an hour job in Milwaukee. I don't know if I can get that job. I know I can get this job. So in some ways, we're still keeping people contained where they are by having that fluctuating. Now, right now, with the federal, if they had a federal minimum wage that was $20 an hour, whatever it is, yet you can't live in LA with that, city with that. But
sure. I mean, that's like saying, well, I don't know, because that's like saying, well, if you make $15 an hour here, you can't move to China next year and save up. Like maybe you can't, but I think moving situations are always very different. Like um, you would have to be in an environment where you're able to like save money, right? Whatever that number might be. I haven't studied the economy of every single place in America,
Right.
but I do know that all the economies in every state, every city, they're all a little bit different. So saying one universal number just couldn't make sense, in the same sense that like people in China, um the $15 an hour here would not have the same cost of living in China, for example.
What if one day, radically out of nowhere, the government decided we were no longer going to use money at all? And
They could do that.
instead, as a society, we were just going to begin to cooperate with each other and get everything done that we needed to get done with no money transferring hands at all.
The government said we're going to get everything done. I mean, the government literally uses money as a tool to do that, and that's their way of doing it.
It's used to control people's lives right now. Money is used to control people's
Right.
lives. So
It's used as a vehicle.
if we were to do away with it and not use money, and instead just say we're going to work together as a society as hard as we can to make sure that everything everybody needs is provided to them by each other. We're just going to start all looking out for each other. Do you think that anything like that could even possibly work?
Oh, of course. I mean, we're social animals, right? So actually a larger part of human nature, like I know people talk about competition, it's like in human nature. Also, cooperation is a huge part of human nature. So absolutely.
Animals don't have money.
I don't know if anyone sees the shirt. Do they see that shirt?
Yeah,
Let's get this bread. Do they see that? I don't know if they see it. But so anybody watching that gets it. But I think for a number of situations, like lions, for example, they don't have money, right? But they do have to cooperate. Like a pride maybe they compete with other prides, but within their own social group, they have to help each other hunt, like, or else they die, right?
Right.
So if we got rid of something like money, we would literally have to cooperate with each other, or else we die. So it becomes like that's the real evolutionary biology thing, right? More than survival of the fittest, there's like survival of the people that stick together.
All right. So this is why I find this interesting, because he said federal job mandate could help. Now, tell him how you feel.
Well, guarantee, not a mandate.
Yeah. Guaranteed job. Tell him how you feel about being employed in general.
I mean, I don't want to.
No, from your when we first started this, you did your bits on enslaving everybody. But wouldn't that be kind of like that? You remember those segments we did? You don't? Oh man! So Marshall had these segment where, like, he drank a lot of El Toro. That's beside the point. But his whole argument is that people did not want to end.
Oh yeah.
You never
no. What I was.
Oh no, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
What they basically did. My belief is that there was no desire to end slavery. Because nobody said to themselves, "This is." They were the people that owned slaves were thrilled with that system. They loved it. They don't want to change it. They don't want to give up their slaves. So what they decided to do instead was, what if we came up with a system where we made everybody a slave and we just convinced them that they were free? And so in their minds, they're now doing exactly what we want them to do, but they believe they have the freedom to make their lives better when we know they don't. And we can create economic barriers to ensure they can continue to be enslaved, and they won't even realize that we're doing it.
Yeah, so I agree that wage labor is slavery, that when you are employed to another person, right? I know, like, some people might say, oh, well, it's a voluntary contract or something, right? But the choice is to work for someone or die, right? Like, that's most people's choices, right? And it's not even you, like, of course, we all have to do things, whether or not money exists, we'd all have to do things. But the idea here is that you work for someone, right? Someone controls you. And that's like the negative aspect. I think the federal job guarantee would be sort of like, if you want to hear my real position, it is abolishing our entire current system, right? But
that's what we should do.
Yeah, I don't know how palatable that was, because I don't know where you guys stand, but I was assuming that you guys were like fairly right wing. So
he is.
He is. Okay. He is. You're not.
He's not. Go ahead. I'm just fucking with him.
Okay.
We both have very open minds about everything and the way the world should be.
Did you guys recognize this shirt or no? You recognize the man on this shirt? Okay. It gives me, so it's he's an anarcho-communist, Peter Kropotkin. So I would be very much in favor of abolishing money, but also abolishing the state, abolishing all these unjustified hierarchies. I think the real thing is that as people, the people should just have control, right? We should have control over the decisions that affect us within our own communities, within our workplaces, right? We go to work every day. There's a person to tell us what to do. We go to our communities. There's a person to tell us, here are the rules, and none of us agreed upon them, right? So we should have a system where the only things that are able to happen are the things that the people come together and say, this is going to happen, right? They have their own process of decision-making power, not a dude in a suit in an office somewhere telling you this is how it's going to happen. I think all of those systems are 100% coercive. Those hierarchies don't even make sense, because a lot of times those people, the people making decisions in the Department of Education have never been teachers, right? Like Betsy DeVos. Whereas teachers have been teachers. They should make the decisions about, how they teach. It should not be, and like parents should have their input. It should not be Betsy DeVos in Washington, D.C.
How do we get to that point?
So I think the real important thing is trying to become the change that we want to see, right? So like trying to build alternatives to the current things going on. If we see workplaces that aren't democratically controlled, trying to build ones that are, whether that be through worker cooperatives, whether that be through labor union organization, I think that those all create a more democratic workplace. Same thing within communities. There's a number of things that have like gone on across the world, but even in the United States, like neighborhood councils, or there's a thing called like tenant unions, where we have one in my city where people in apartment buildings will band together, create a tenant union, and demand certain rights for themselves, right, with their landlord. Because that's another big exploitation, is like, a landlord that might neglect everything that the tenants might say, and like, oh, you have to pay us $2,000 a month, the mortgage is 800. But they're able to just exploit workers and working class people so easily because of that power dynamic. And so we need to create systems of organization to band people closer together. And I think slowly over time, we can sort of weaken that hierarchy,
I'll tell you what I find interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 38, self-employed, and I am leaving one of my businesses. I'm basically, and I'm doing something else with my life that it's also on my own. And I know people who have worked, gone to college and gotten jobs, and they're people. And my mom said something to me recently. She said, well, if you needed to get a job, you got a lot of skills, you go get a job. And I cannot wrap my head around even getting a job for $20 an hour. I couldn't,
right?
Like I print custom t-shirts to do custom apparel, and I can sell a t-shirt for $20. I can sell 2 t-shirts for $20.
Right.
And it doesn't take an hour of my life. I give somebody an hour of my life for $20.
Right.
And
it's crazy.
It is pretty wild. And to think that, when I think back when I was younger and I got a job for $7.50 an hour, like after taxes, it's like $5. So you sold 1 hour of your life for $5. And that's what you're worth. And at one point, do people just go, I'm worth more than that? Do that.
Yeah. Dude, it's crazy. Like I'm 21, right? And like to me, I'm in a labor union, so I've been very lucky, right? Okay. It's really an opportunity thing. But if I tell people that like I made 20 an hour, that's like the lowest that like I might end up working. Really now it's 22 because it goes up every year. But when I first started, it was like 20 an hour. And I live at home. I don't have to pay bills. I couldn't even imagine making what I do now and wanting to like being able to do things. It's very difficult to even want to do a lot of things. And other people my age are like amazed at 20 an hour. Like that sounds incredible. Like they wish they're chasing for things like that. And it's insane. But I think we're just all accustomed to it, so that's the kind of situation that we live in where people will literally
we're tell us every day look, every week at the jobs report, created more jobs for you, dumbass. Got a job for you.
Yep.
We got 2 million more jobs. You get your ass out there, get you a job.
Right.
And you got I think there's a lot of the younger generation who's like, fuck that job. I ain't doing that. And they're gonna go find out and create their own wealth and look, man, how many kids are making money on TikTok, YouTube, freaking Snapchat's paying $1 million a day to creators to live their best life. They're starting their own business. Look, man, people are quitting real jobs, going on Fiverr, making $500,000 a year on Fiverr. They're going to look at this job situation and go, I'm not doing any of that shit anymore.
Well, you can take a look at what just happened with the pandemic and all the people that were able to just not work. And it didn't affect society at all. They were like,
exactly. This is my big point. Yeah, this is my big point. Yeah,
go home because what you're doing is not even important enough for you to really need to be here. And there were only a tiny handful of people that actually needed to continue to work, and they were all the lowest paid people on the scale of workers. And they're out there. And they were like, oh, they're essential workers. They're heroes. And we applauded them for about 6 months. We were like, oh, man, thank God you're working in this grocery store. Thank God you're gas. And then all of a sudden, as the pandemic eased up, and they're like, we got to get everybody back to their work where they're not doing jack shit anyway, but we can't let them just sit in their houses and do nothing. We got to convince them to go out and work. And then all of a sudden, the people that were the essential workers that were doing all the things, everybody went right back to fucking ignoring those
Yep.
people and acting like they
Yep.
don't even exist. And the thank yous went away, and the signs of essential workers went away, and the idea of those people even getting a fucking raise. Everybody was like, "Are you
Yep.
out of your mind? You don't deserve a fucking raise. You're just a goddamn gas station employee. Who the fuck are you?" And it's like, dude, I'm the motherfucker that risked my fucking life to go out and keep fucking working while people were dying for going out and working. That's who the fuck I am.
And so there's two things. I have to go relatively soon, but I want to say two things. So this is actually a big counter argument that I make to a lot of people when, like, you know, that I say I'm talking about a cooperative place without money and all this stuff. And they're like, well, what if people chose not to work and they were just lazy, right? And there's, apart from the unemployment rate, there's this thing called the civilian labor force participation rate, right? I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but it's the amount of people that are actually in the labor force. And it at the height of the pandemic, when things were really bad, it was like 60% of people that were even in the labor force. So this is people who have jobs and people who are looking for jobs. So this also includes the unemployed. And then if you take away the unemployed from that, it was like at the height, I think 14 or 15% of people are unemployed. So it's almost like half of people weren't working. We were producing more than enough food for everyone. You know, we had a bunch of houses that were vacant.
Hey,
You know, it's
no
like,
damn toilet paper though.
you're right, no toilet paper.
1% of the workforce makes toilet paper.
Apparently, right? And it's like, right, yeah.
Make
So
it or deliver it, one of the two.
right, it's like this thing. It's like, well, let's say in this cooperative world, half of people decide not to work. We still would produce, you know, enough. But I think more people would want to work because they could actually do things that fulfill themselves rather than things that, you know, you're slaving your fucking time away to fucking, like, you know, die in something, you know. Yeah, that was one of the things. I can't remember the other thing, to be honest, but
Good stuff, buddy. Good stuff. Enjoy your day. It's good talking to you.
yeah, good talking to you guys too. Hope you have a good rest of your day.